Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Planted Cauliflower. I'm Carly and I'm a plant collector and enthusiast with over 250 plants in her collection. And today we are going to talk about pests, those irritating, annoying little things that get all over your plant and cause a lot of havoc and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. And I'm here to tell you they're not as scary as they seem. So you don't have to freak out if you get pests or you notice pests. I'm going to go over some very common houseplant pests and some very easy ways to get rid of them, and some common misconceptions about some treatments that are out there that may not be as beneficial as you think they are. So stick around and we will definitely get right into it and make pests a much less pesty thing for you.
I want to be daring, baby, dance the night away. I let my hair down if I want. Don't you just get tired chasing fame and being pretty all the time?
Okay guys, so we're gonna go ahead and just talk about some preventative things that you can do throughout your regular routine that will keep you from having as many pests as you could possibly have. Let's face it, pests are a thing. They will happen to you. No matter how careful you are, the likelihood of you getting a pest is pretty good. So don't feel like it makes you a bad plant parent. Don't feel like you're a failure if you get a pest. It happens to the best and most perfect plant parent. Everyone's had pests. I've had pests. I do a lot of preventative maintenance to stop from having pests, and I still get them because it's just part of having houseplants. So the first thing we're going to talk about, like I said, is some preventative measures. Now, I did a video a few days ago about whether or not you should repot your plants immediately upon arrival, and you can go back and watch that video. I'll link it in the cards up above if you'd like to check it out. But one of the things I do for pest prevention, if I feel like it's okay for the plant at the time, is I go ahead and I change the substrate. If I want to keep it in soil, I will go ahead, take that plant out of soil that it's in, wash it off, give it a good rinse, spray it with some neem oil solution. I'm gonna go ahead and put a little graphic here showing my neem oil solution formula, and I go ahead and I repot it into clean, fresh soil that I know is pest free. A lot of pests tend to travel on the plant and in the soil from new places, and that's the majority of how you actually get pests. You definitely want to quarantine any new plants, whether you change the soil or not, just to make sure that there's no little hitchhikers waiting to wreak havoc upon your entire collection, because once a plant problem spreads, it becomes a much bigger issue to get rid of. Okay, a couple more preventative measures would be peppermint essential oil. Pests are really sensitive to that, so if you diffuse a little bit of that in your room, you can even put a little bit on a cotton ball and put it in your planter saucers just to have that aroma around your plants. Not only is it pleasant to the nose, but it will distract and deter pests from your plants. So definitely a great preventative measure. I wouldn't say it is a treatment for an actual pest infestation, but it's very nice to have a pleasant scent around your plants that is also going to ward off pests. Another less commonly talked about pest prevention method is predatory pests, predatory mites, things that are good to your collection, good bugs that eat the bad bugs. These can be ladybugs, lacewings. There's several different ones out there that are more tailored to different types of pests. So if you want to try and release some pest killers into your collection, definitely go ahead and just do a quick Google search. Best predatory pest for thrips, and it'll bring it up. I know that ladybugs are super effective at eating gnat eggs and aphids. I know that they're preventative for other ones as well. I'm not going to pretend like I am an expert at predatory pests because I'm not. I personally don't like predatory pests, or the idea of them anyway. I wouldn't release them into my collection simply because I don't want bugs in my house at all. But they do not bug some people. See what I did there? And some people think that having some predatory pests in their home and in their collection is beneficial to their plants, and they absolutely are. It's just whether or not you want to try them or not. There's lots of places online, I will link some in the description box down below, where you can get predatory pests that will help keep the bad pest population under control in your home, and that is definitely yet another way to preventatively treat pests. You also have things like systematic insecticides. Now these are things that you put in your dirt that when you water will infuse into the dirt and your plant will drink it up and it will make your plant poisonous to pests. That way when spider mites or thrips start to feed on your plants, or mealybugs or what have you, start to feed on your plants, they will ingest that poison and systematically kill themselves off just through their natural everyday habits. But it's definitely one of the more passive ways for us as plant parents to treat and prevent pests. Another way to treat pests, a way that's easy and very preventative, is to continuously clean your plants. I'm not saying you have to clean them every day or even every week, but at least once or twice a month, grab a nice microfiber rag, get you a neem oil solution or a leaf shine solution with a little bit of neem in it, what have you, and go ahead and wipe your leaves, wipe your stems, get your pot nice and clean. Wash out those saucers, guys. Pests like to look for places to hide, and a nice dirty saucer is a perfect place for that. Pests will enter your plant through the drainage hole. So definitely make sure your saucers are nice and clean, and give them a wipe out once or twice a month. It won't hurt, it'll keep it looking nice, so that's an extra bonus, and it's preventative towards those pests. You can also, when you plant your plants in soil or whatever medium you're using, either buy or find a way to reuse like old t-shirts, whatever, and put a little drainage mesh or barrier that will still allow the water to go through, but will not allow pests to go through the drainage hole. So, I use drainage mesh discs. I buy them on Amazon. I'll put a picture of them here and I will link them down below. But those help keep pests out of my plants. It keeps the soil in the pot so I don't get big air pockets, and it still allows lots of drainage so that the water doesn't sit in my soil, keeping it wet. Definitely a pest prevention issue or situation prevention that not a lot of people talk about. So that is a great way to help stop pests from entering through your drainage hole. Okay guys, let's talk about the most common houseplant pests that you're gonna hear about, see. I'm not saying these are the only ones, these are just the most common ones. And we're gonna start off with thrips. Thrips are a pain in the booty. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. They're hard to get rid of sometimes, especially if the infestation is a larger infestation. And I've been known to throw away plants that have thrips on them simply if it's not something I cherish. Because it's just a pain in the butt. A lot of people are going to tell you, oh, neem oil will take care of thrips. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is just not the case. You'll find that a lot of people that say neem oil takes care of their thrips have multiple infestations over long periods of time. They keep getting thrips keep just happening to them, and that's because neem oil is not really a pest solution. Neem oil is a great pest prevention. Definitely something that you want to take into account. Neem oil is not going to always get rid of every pest problem you have. It's not an end-all be-all. It's not a great fix. I love neem oil. I use it as preventative measures all the time. I do suggest neem oil, but I don't suggest it as an overall fix to a pest problem. To get rid of thrips, you're going to need an actual insecticide, and I suggest Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew, or I believe in Canada, my Canadian friends get Savers End All. Other places, I'm not sure what you guys use. If you are in a different country and you know a great solution to pests for thrips in your area, please list it in the comments down below so other people can learn from you and we can spread that good information. But yeah, absolutely, thrips are nasty little suckers. You definitely want to kill them right away. They tend to stick their noses, snouts, mouths, whatever, into your plant, and they suck the juices out of your leaves and out of your stems. They create lots of damage on your leaves. It's just not something that you want, and I definitely think that something strong like an insecticide is needed to kill that infestation quickly. Thrips, one of the downsides, they can breed and get out of control very quickly. Within a couple days to a week, you could have an absolute mess on your hands. So I would absolutely make sure that you use an insecticide to get rid of everything so that you don't keep having repeated issues with them. Now here's something that I've never heard mentioned, but thrips aren't just like, what's the word I'm looking for? they're not just on your plants. A real bad thrip infestation, your thrips can get into your furniture. They like super warm areas, so they can climb into computers. They can even get into your computer monitors. So yeah, you want to try and kill them as quick as possible with some insecticide, but don't worry, don't panic. That is a bad thrips infestation, and any diligent plant parent would probably realize that they have a thrips problem long before it's infected your home. So definitely look into getting some insecticide that you can have on hand. You don't want to be looking and searching and trying to get insecticide after you realize you have a pest problem. Having a good insecticide on deck is something I recommend for every new and seasoned plant parent. That way you know if you see something, you can get down and dirty with it immediately and eradicate those pests. Let's move on to mealybugs. Now, mealybugs are soft-bodied. They almost look like little pieces of fuzzy cotton. I'll put a picture up so that you can see what they look like. And they tend to focus their efforts on the roots, which are called root mealies, or in the joints where the nodes are, and they really love new growth. So if you notice that your new leaves and your new offshoots are starting to yellow really quickly, and they have little white fuzzies all over them, that's probably mealybugs. And actually, mealybugs are not as scary to get rid of as they sound. Mealybugs are really susceptible to alcohol. I know I'm not talking about tequila, although you might want some if you have bugs. I understand the anxiety. I'm talking about rubbing alcohol. So what people do is they'll make a rubbing alcohol solution. I will put a little formula up here for you to look at. And they use a Q-tip. Some people will go in with just straight alcohol too. I've never done that, so I would caution you to try it on one part of your plant and then move on from that. But move on from there and see if it affects your plant. But diluting it with a little bit of water is equally as effective. And people will go in with Q-tips and they'll just hit every mealy. The mealy will turn brown and shrivel and they'll die. And you can just continue to treat as you see until you no longer see mealybugs. That is definitely one way to treat it that's a little less invasive and a little less in your face. It does take a little bit of time, obviously, because you're treating and watching and treating and watching all the time, having to isolate your plant from other plants. But other people, as myself, take a little bit more of a drastic approach. I did mention in my intro that I hate bugs. I don't like to deal with them. So I tend to go a little in your face with it. When one of my plants, for example, my Carnosa Dapple Gray had mealybugs. So I pulled the plant out of the soil. I threw the pot away. With the soil in it, I just tossed it. It was just a cheap nursery pot, so I just tossed it. And I washed the plant very thoroughly. I did spray it with an alcohol solution. I let it sit for a little while in that alcohol solution. Then I washed the plant off completely again, made sure the roots were really good, and I switched my plant over to pon. Because at that time I was really switching a lot of things over to pon, so it was an easy time for me to go ahead and do so. And I have not had any problems with that plant since. Soil is going to give you more pests than a non-organic substrate like pon or leca, or cocoa husks even will have a little bit less of a chance of pests, but you can still get pests, so don't feel like it's a complete fix. But that's what I chose to do to lower my chances of continuing to get mealybugs. If there's nowhere for the mealybugs to lay their eggs and to be a nice moist environment for them, I felt that was my best course of action, and it did work out very well for me. Neem oil as a preventative measure will help ward off mealybugs, but it's not something that I would use to kill an actual known infestation, just like with thrips. Okay, let's go to my actually most hated bug. My most hated bug is fungus gnats. Those little buzzy things that where you water your plants, they fly into your face. And they're just my most hated bug because they actually genuinely annoy me. They're definitely not the worst bug that your plant can have. They're actually probably I was fair to say, one of the less damaging bugs to your plants. So normally I would say that constant repetitive neem oil could help with fungus gnats. You could also not keep your plant as moist. Fungus gnats will lay their eggs and their larvae in the first top 1 to 2 inches of the soil. You can scrape that soil off, replace it with fresh soil, and then just keep your plant a little on the drier side because they need that moisture to thrive. But if you don't want to keep your plant on the drier side, or it's a plant that prefers to stay moist, you can also water with mosquito bit tea or mosquito bit water, depending on what you want to call it. And what I do for that is I take a couple tablespoons of mosquito bits and I put them in a gallon jug of whatever water that you're going to water your plants with. And I let them kind of seep there for 24 hours, let all of that beautiful fungus gnat killing ingredients that are in the mosquito bits leach out into the water. Then I strain the mosquito bits out and then I water my plants with that. That's actually a really good preventative method as well. If you want to just, once or twice a month water with mosquito bit oil or mosquito bit water, you absolutely can. It's a great preventative measure against fungus gnats and other pests as well. There is not really a super quick fix for fungus gnats. That is something that will have to be treated over time if you have it in multiple plants. What I did with my Enjoy, and I'm not recommending that you do this, this is my choice with my plant, is I cut the plant up, threw away the pot and the dirt, and I'm rerooting it currently. And I'll put some footage of my Enjoy that is currently rerooting on my dining room table. That was my choice. Fungus gnats will not typically lay in pond, leca, or cocoa husks because there's not anything for their larvae to feed on. They feed on the fungus and organic matter that's in soil, not inorganic. They feed on organic material. And they can multiply very quickly. The lifespan of a fungus gnat is basically all centered around reproduction. Adults lay eggs, like I said, near the top 1-2 inches of soil, and it can take about 3 days for the eggs to hatch into larvae. The larva will burrow into the soil a little bit deeper and start to feast on that organic material in the soil, and in about 2 weeks, a full-fledged fungus gnat will emerge. The adults live for about a week, and in that time they can lay over 200 eggs. So you can see within a 1 to 2 week period how out of control fungus gnats can actually get. You can get sticky traps. I will link some down below and put a picture of a sticky trap here to catch the adults so that they can no longer lay eggs because obviously they're stuck to the sticky trap. You can also lay out apple cider vinegar baths for the for the fungus gnats. And basically what you do there is you take a little cup or a little saucer or whatever, and you put some apple cider vinegar, some water, and then a little squirt of dish soap into the saucer or cup or what have you, and then cover it with plastic wrap and then poke some holes in it. The mosquito bits will find their way in there because they're drawn to the sweet smell of the apple cider vinegar, and then they will get stuck in there and eventually drown and die. Another common pest that people find on their houseplants are spider mites, and I will put those up here. You will notice some very thin webbing on your plants. They obviously are spider webs, but they don't look like your typical house spider. So you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly. It's a very, very fine webbing, almost like a mist over your plant. You'll find the webbing on the leaves, under the leaves, in between the stems, and like the stalk and the stems. You'll notice the spider mite webs pretty quickly. And they're little orange, brownish, like little dots. You'll see them scurrying around. They're very small and they tend to focus on the underside of the leaf. So definitely when you're checking your plants, make sure you're checking the undersides of your leaves really well. And spider mites sound really creepy, and those spiders, and they're really easy to get rid of, honestly. Neem oil solution will take care of them. Insecticide solution will take care of them. And they are actually one of the easier pests to kill, in my opinion. They're definitely not good for your plants and you want to get rid of them, but I would not panic. They're actually really super simple to eradicate. What they like to do is they puncture the leaves with their mouths, I guess, or pinchers or whatever they have. I'm sorry, I don't know the technical term. I'm not a spider mite expert in anatomy, but they puncture the leaves and they suck all the marrow out of the leaves, and you're going to see some yellowing on your leaves, some discoloration, some brown spots. The leaves will start to die off. So, if you're watering on schedule, your newer leaves are dying. They're not the old leaves that would naturally fall off the bottom. definitely take a look and see if you see any little webs or anything like that that might indicate you have some spider mite issues. Female spider mites can lay about 20 eggs a day, and they can live for up to 2 to 4 weeks. So 20 eggs a day times 4 weeks, that's a lot of spider mites. Definitely make sure that all the plants surrounding that plant are checked for additional infestations and treat as soon as possible so that it doesn't get too out of hand for you. This is just like with the thrips. After a certain amount of time using the same insecticide, since they reproduce so quickly, they can start to become resistant. So this might be a situation where if you find your insecticide quite isn't doing the trick after a few weeks, you might want to switch it up to a different brand or a different type, because that could be where part of your problem is lying there. You can use an insecticidal soap. You can use predatory mites. Neem oil also works in between that to give it a little extra something. But yeah, absolutely don't panic. It's actually a much easier thing to kill than thrips. Thrips is definitely one of the hardest ones to kill, and you still are able to kill them. So don't panic too much. Pests, like I said, are a natural part of being a plant parent. Everybody's gonna have pests at some point. If someone tells you they have 300 plants and has never had a pest, they're lying to themselves, because they have. And they might have had pests they didn't even notice, that maybe their preventative treatments eradicated before it got out of hand, and they just never noticed it, but I can promise you that they've had pests. Okay guys, I hope that wasn't too rambly and it was pretty concise for you guys. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I will link everything I can think of to link down in the description box below. And I really hope you found this informative, and I hope that you are a little less anxious about pests now, that you know that they can definitely be eradicated and that they're not the end all for your plant. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. My links will be in the description box down below. Leave me a comment and a thumbs up. It really helps me to grow my channel, and I really appreciate every single one of you for hanging in this long. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and you get to spend lots of quality time with your pest-free plant babies. Let's go do some pest prevention. Have a great weekend.